Riverton, a small Canadian town, stretches along a winding river, somewhere at the intersection of dense coniferous forests and fields. It seemed like a place where life was smooth and measured, where neighbors greeted each other on the street and discussed the latest news at a roadside coffee shop. The daily routine did not go beyond a quiet routine until one day changed everything. It was the morning of the wedding of Ayanna Johnson and Malik Williams, two young Riverton residents who were beloved by the town. Ayanna stood out for her bold personality and friendly smile. Everyone said that she was the life of the party and was always ready to help. Malik, on the other hand, was known for his hard work and calmness. He belonged to a family that was considered exemplary, kind, compassionate people who had earned the respect of the locals since the days of Malik's grandfather, a former forester. They met after a long time apart. Ayanna went to study in another country, dreaming of the big city, but returned to Riverton a year ago. Their love story was gossiped about in a positive way. They got back together, decided not to waste time, and quickly applied for marriage. As people around them said, they looked like they were made for each other. Preparations for the wedding lasted several months. Ayanna's mother, Latoya Edwards, enthusiastically helped with everything from choosing the band to decorating the hall at the local Riverton Resort Hotel where the ceremony was to take place. Latoya had a sharp mind and a strong personality, so she wanted to keep everything under control. For her, this day represented a chance to show that her daughter had made the right choice in coming home. At 7 in the morning, the sun rose over the town, painting the sky with pink clouds. The air was fresh, and the cars of relatives and friends began to drive down the streets. Near the hotel, florists were already seen unloading white and pink roses, and the wedding cake was brought from the Jameson and Sons Bakery, known for its culinary delights. Malik woke up at the house of his friend Devin Brooks. This was a tradition he followed so that he would not see his bride before the wedding. The two men joked lightly that the town hadn't seen such a bustle as it was today for many years. Devin, 2 years older, had known Malik since childhood and was his reliable support. He helped the groom get to the hotel around 9 o'clock, where he had to coordinate the last details with the coordinator. Ayanna, on the other hand, was originally supposed to stay in the hotel room with a few friends, including her best friend Kenesha Gray. She arrived last night to prepare everything and make sure that the bride would have her hair, makeup, and fitting done on time. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. It was 10 in the morning. The hotel lobby was crowded. Relatives were sitting in the lobby, chatting, asking where to find the administration when the official part would begin. The musicians were preparing in a separate corner, quietly playing a melody. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and the light aroma of coffee. At 10:30, the friends went to visit the bride in her room to help her with her dress and accessories. But when they opened the door, they were greeted by emptiness. The room was perfectly organized. The wedding dress was on display, and the shoes were next to it. The bed was made. No note, no explanation. Ayanna was gone. At first, no one raised the alarm. They decided that she must have gone for a short walk by the lake to collect her thoughts. However, the closer it got to 11 o'clock, the more anxiety grew. Her friends started looking for Ayanna in the corridors, on the terrace, in the restaurant, asking the hotel staff if anyone had seen her. No one had. When Malik learned about his fiancé's absence, he tried to stay calm. He convinced himself that she was just worried, but the more time passed, the less he believed it. At 11 o'clock, guests had already begun to gather in the ceremony hall. Roses were arranged, but no one could answer where the main character of the event was. The bride's mother, Latoya, stood in the foyer, feigning confidence. "Don't worry," she said to her friends. "Ayanna is very emotional. Maybe she needs a few minutes alone to adjust." Deep down, her mother was also trembling, but she didn't want to embarrass herself in front of everyone. The question, "Where is Ayanna?" was asked more and more often. Rumors spread quickly. Some suggested that the bride might have run away, as it happened in novels. Others said it was ridiculous because Ayanna always seemed happy with her plans. Several gray-haired women whispered, saying that something was wrong. However, the real catalyst was an accidental discovery by Kenesha Gray. At 12 o'clock, she noticed a phone with a brightly colored case on a table in the lobby. It was definitely Ayanna's phone. She picked it up, intending to make a quick call or leave a message. But when she opened the screen, She saw an incoming text message full of threats. The text read something like this: "You will never escape from what you have done. You will pay for your ruined life. Wait for the big day to come." All the messages were anonymous, sent from a number not listed in the contacts. Some were delivered late the night before. It was shocking. It turned out that Ayana knew about the danger, but kept silent. Kenesha realized that such threats meant that there was a person who harbored hatred for the bride. Malik, after reading these texts, was stunned. How had he, the groom, never heard of this? Devon joined them in the crowd. He admitted with a dejected look that Ayana had mentioned a difficult past, but always said it in passing, without details. Perhaps she had a conflict with someone she had once reported to the police or disrupted a business. When asked why he hadn't told us sooner, Devon only said, "I didn't want to go public." An official appeal to local law enforcement initially yielded no results. In a small town, the police were used to disputes over cows and family quarrels, but not to kidnappings at a wedding. The officer on duty was skeptical, saying, "It happens that brides change their minds, and we will declare her missing after a day of absence." The people not receiving support felt angry and disappointed. "This can't happen," Malik exploded, feeling like he was losing his mind. "We have proof of the threats, and no one wants to act immediately?" The precinct commander, Sergeant Brown, replied cautiously that without a specific address or evidence of violence, they could not launch a full-scale operation. But reassuringly, he said that he would send a patrol car to inspect the neighborhood. Malik could see that this would actually lead to nothing. Meanwhile, Kenesha noticed an additional detail on Ayana's phone. In the notes or chats section, there was a geolocation marker pointing to an abandoned industrial area on the outskirts of Riverton. The girl showed it to Malik, emphasizing that the messages came almost simultaneously with this coordinate record. "Now we know where we have to go," Malik said quietly, realizing that it could be risky. Ayana's mother tried to object, seeing the danger in going barefoot. However, Malik persisted. "I'm not going to sit back and wait for someone to do something," he said, picking up his fiance's phone. "If there's any trace, I have to check it out." Devon, though a reserved man, supported his friend. "We'll go together." Kenesha also agreed, because she felt a special responsibility for Ayana. It seemed to her that her friend would have entrusted this tip to her. It was around 1 p.m. when the three friends took off from the hotel parking lot. Malik was driving his own old SUV, which had to travel many kilometers in the wooded area. On the way, it began to rain. The sky was filled with gray clouds, and the area was becoming gloomy. There was a tension in the car that everyone felt. Kenesha looked at her phone from time to time, searching for something in Ayana's notes, trying to figure out if there was anything else important. Her mind was racing. What if it's a trap? What if we arrive too late? Devon, sitting in the back seat, wondered if he had been honest enough in telling everything he knew. He remembered well how 6 months ago, Ayana had made a sad joke about an old deal that still haunted her nightmares. Maybe that deal hadn't been a joke. Malik's face showed anxiety and determination. "I will find my bride at any cost," he repeated, gritting his teeth. He was worried that Ayana was hiding a part of the past, but his feelings for her were stronger than his resentment. When the car left the last of Riverton's houses behind, they began a field road, broken and puddled in places. It took them an hour to reach an abandoned industrial complex. The fence around it looked rusty, the gates locked with heavy chains. They decided to park on the side, near the area where there was a gaping hole in the fence. Through it, through the weeds and overgrowth, we could get to the hangars. The gray light fell coldly on the ruined facades of the old buildings, the glass in the windows long since broken. In the old days, they say, 50 people worked here, but now there was a dead silence. Squeezing through the hole, the friends came to an abandoned site littered with fragments of wooden pallets and iron parts. Malik was holding a flashlight. Although it was still day, dark clouds made the place look gloomy. As they walked between the hangars, they could feel the eerie cold penetrating their skin. "This place is perfect for a crime," Kenesha said. "Silence, no witnesses." Malik silently agreed. They approached the largest hangar, the back door of which was slightly ajar. There was a faint smell of decay or dust inside. Malik went in first, Devon on the left, Kenesha on the right. In the flashlight beam, they saw a large empty room with a concrete floor, old machines or remnants of machinery. Look, Devon said quietly, leaning down near the floor. He pointed to a piece of snow-white cloth with traces of dirt or dark stains on it. Malik's heart sank. He took the cloth and ran his fingers over it. It seemed only yesterday that he had admired her trying on the veil before the wedding. Now he was holding a wasted piece of it in a cold, half-dark hanger. In the far corner, someone had left an inscription on the wall. "You don't deserve happiness." The uneven red letters made it seem as if it was not just anger, but painful revenge. The blood ran cold in my veins at the thought that the author of these words could be nearby. "Maybe they've moved on," Kenesha suggested. "There's nothing else here." They heard a knock from outside. The three looked around in fear. Malik decided that they should go out, but it turned out that the door they had come in through was now locked from the outside. Someone had locked it. Everyone held their breath and realized that they were being prevented from escaping. As a result, they were trapped. "Maybe there's another way out," Devon said. "Let's look for it." They moved deeper and found a side corridor. It opened up a passage to the second hangar. Kenesha suggested that they go back, but how if the door was locked? Malik was afraid of losing time, so he insisted on going forward. He heard a muffled sound, like a woman moaning or crying. Malik shuddered. It could be Ayanna. They found a metal door leading to the basement. They went down a ladder, a lantern illuminating the dirt walls. They approached a large room with a pile of junk. An old lamp burned on the floor, giving off a dim light. Shadows moved with every step. In the corner lay Ayanna, her hands and feet tied, her mouth covered with a rag. When she saw Malik, she moaned through her gag. Kenesha's friends screamed in relief and horror. Suddenly, the man who had arranged it all came out of the darkness. A man of medium height, with an evil look, held a gun in his hand. "You shouldn't have come here," he said in a low voice, "and now you're all staying here." In the light of the lamp, it became clear that this was not a random psycho. This was a man who deliberately wanted to disrupt the wedding, having a personal vendetta against Ayanna. He introduced himself as a former acquaintance whom Ayanna had framed for her own benefit. Because of her, he had lost his fortune, reputation, and respect. Now he wanted to see her lose the most precious thing, the possibility of a happy marriage. The perpetrator approached Ayanna at gunpoint. Malik rushed forward and was hit in the shoulder. Devon tried to grab the attacker from behind. The bullet rang out, hitting the wall. Ayanna shook with fear. Kenesha, standing aside, could not find a weapon to defend herself, only shouted, "Stop!" The man, full of hatred, pointed his gun at Ayanna. Although Malik and Devon tried to distract him, he pulled the trigger. The bullet, fired at close range, hit her in the chest. Ayanna's body jerked, and she gasped. The screams of her comrades merged into a single desperate sound. Kenesha managed to run over, grab some iron pipe, and hit the attacker in the arm. He dropped his gun and fell down. Devon immediately added a punch to put the villain on the floor. Malik rushed to Ayanna, broke the gag, and took her in his arms. After a moment, she opened her eyes but had difficulty swallowing air, and bright red blood was flowing from the wound. "I'm sorry," the bride whispered. "I wanted to start my life over." Malik tried to stop the blood, pressing his palm against the wound. But her strength was waning, her breathing was weakening. In the grip of pain and remorse, she closed her eyes and her body went limp. The man, covered in her blood, felt her heart stop. Kenesha hysterically called an ambulance, but the voice on the phone sounded desperate. "She's dying. Come quickly." The attacker was neutralized while he was lying on the cold floor. Devon held him while Kenesha talked to the police. The enemy continued to scream incoherently that Ayanna took his life, so he took hers. His pupils were burning with madness. 20 minutes later, the police and an ambulance arrived. In the abandoned basement, they found a picture. A dead bride in a wedding veil covered in blood, Malik torn by her grief, Devon and Kenesha in a state of shock. The captured criminal was no longer resisting. The doctors had no choice but to pronounce him dead. All the dreams of a joyful wedding turned into a nightmare that unfolded against the backdrop of abandoned walls. The news of the terrible event spread through Riverton in no time. Those who had decorated the hall in the morning were now removing wilted flowers and extinguishing garlands. The guests were informed of the tragedy. Latoya, Ayana's mother, came running, but she was not allowed to enter the room immediately, lest she see her daughter's body in that state. Only after a brief explanation from the officer did she fall to her knees in despair, clutching her head. Her piercing screams spread through the neighborhood. The next day's Riverton newspaper carried a grim headline: "Bloody Massacre on Wedding Day. Bride Dies in Abandoned Hangar." The crime came as a shock to the town, which was accustomed to domestic disputes. People scolded the police for not taking quick action and grieved with their families. Some spoke of a curse, while others mentioned that secrets should not be hidden because they would come out anyway. On the funeral day, which was at the end of the week, many people gathered in front of the church. The coffin with Ayana's body was carried out to the sad sounds of the organ. The wreaths read, "Rest in peace, our bride." Malik walked behind with an absent look, crying uncontrollably. Any words of condolence seemed empty to him. Kenesha felt guilty, believing that she should have noticed the messages sooner, insisted more on her friend's safety. Devin blamed himself for not telling Malik about Ayana's problems earlier. In the end, they both realized that it would not have made a difference, but the pain would not let go. The man who shot Ayana was arrested on the spot. At the trial, he admitted that he had planned revenge because he believed that Ayana had betrayed him, framing him for some dark dealings. He wanted to deprive her of the joys he believed she had taken from him. The jury quickly reached a verdict, sentencing the criminal to life in prison. This did not bring Ayana back to life, nor did it ease the pain of Malik and her family. Everyone asked what would have happened if she had confided in her lover, if she had told him in time. Could it have been prevented? There were too many questions. Malik, accompanied by his family, left Riverton for a while. He took a vacation from work, canceled all his plans. The entire town was filled with sympathy as people heard him crying out bitterly in the basement where his fiancée had died so senselessly. Latoya locked herself in the house, did not come out for weeks, and refused to comment to journalists. They said that she blamed herself because she thought she knew all of Ayana's secrets, but she could not prevent the tragedy. Kenesha and Devin tried to support Malik when he returned a few months later. However, they saw that the formerly trusting man seemed to have been uprooted. He became silent, gloomy, and his eyes reminded them of grief. Sometimes he would appear at Ayana's grave, bringing flowers, as if trying to beg forgiveness for what he could not save. The wedding, which was supposed to be a symbol of unity, turned out to be a sign that any secret, if not recognized and neutralized, can explode with painful consequences. In a small Canadian town that has always believed in family values, everything turned into a bloody drama in an instant. This is how the day that was called the most anticipated for Ayana and Malik ended. The bride never walked down the aisle in a white dress again. Her life ended in an abandoned hangar because of the revenge of a man from the past whom she did not tell her lover. Riverton was plunged into grief for months, and Malik, clutching the wedding invitation, realized that all those flowers, decorations, and witnesses had no meaning in the face of a cruel reality where hidden lies end in death.